Boy, I wish the people in Philadelphia would make up their minds. Either everything is about race or nothing is about race. The latest example of everything about race has just happened a day or two ago when a couple of the fellows were sitting in Starbucks, minding their own business, not buying anything, asking to use the bathroom, taking up seats from paying customers. The manager asked them to leave. They wouldn't leave. The cops asked them to leave. They wouldn't leave. They said they had a right to be in Starbucks. That's some kind of a new entitlement, the right to go into Starbucks without buying anything. It turned into a huge national story. You guys probably heard about it.
Good morning, Ted. This is a scenario that lots of people do every single day, especially if they live in the city. You stop by a Starbucks, maybe to use the bathroom, just sit and wait for a little bit. But when it happened the other day, it led to 2 people getting arrested. Take a look behind me. It happened here at the Rittenhouse Square Starbucks on Spruce Street, and this is leading to actual protests. You can see one person standing outside the store right now with the sign. We're expecting a large gathering today at noon. That viral video sparking discussions about racial bias.
You hear them say, hey, like the manager is like asking for you guys to leave. Can you please leave? And I was really confused as to why, because it seems like I noticed them sitting there earlier in the afternoon, and like they were just sitting there quietly, sitting on their phones, like chatting, like just like everyone else in Starbucks was.
The woman who shot that now viral video is asking to remain anonymous. She says the men, both African American, were quietly waiting inside the cafe for a friend. But police say the store manager at the Starbucks called 911 after the men refused to leave without making a purchase. Critics say that scenario plays out every day at Starbucks without leading to police intervention. Private businesses, of course, do have the right to remove people from private property. Philly police say their officers were following protocol after being called by a store owner.
These officers did absolutely nothing wrong. As an African American male, I am very aware of implicit bias. We are committed to fair and unbiased policing.
It's unfortunate and disappointing that these kinds of things still happen in 2018.
The city's mayor says the city will now investigate some of the training practices and policies at Starbucks. Again, the Starbucks CEO is apologizing, actually hoping to fly to Philadelphia to meet those 2 men in person. He calls what happened here, quote, reprehensible. Again, a large demonstration expected outside the Starbucks today at noon.
Don't get into a fight with them. Don't get into a fight with them. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. What did they get called for? Because there are 2 black guys sitting here meeting me? Yes. Well, what did they do? What did they do? Did someone tell me what they did?
They didn't do anything. I saw the entire thing.
What did they do?
Nothing. And the woman said it's for paying customers to get out there to eat. They didn't do anything.
I mean, this is something that happens every day in Philadelphia in the newspapers there. If it's about the fellas and their lovely ladies, then it has everything to do with race. Like, how about this story? I mean, how many hundreds of stories do you want like this out of this one city? Here's a story instructing black people how to avoid the relentless white racism they're constantly subjected to in Philadelphia. That's every day in Philly, these stories. Every day a reminder every day is a reminder that black people are relentless victims of relentless white racism all the time, everywhere. That explains everything. But how about this weird story? Kind of a flip from the story we just saw in Starbucks. Happened a few months ago at Temple University. 200 black people rampaging through the campus, put 6 white kids in the hospital. You can see the video right now. A day or two after this enormous race riot, it's ridiculous to call it anything else but that, big columnist for the biggest daily newspaper in Philly comes out and says, why is everybody trying to make this about race? Remember, we just saw it in Philly, in the Starbucks. It was all about race. 200 black people rampaging through the campus, beating the piss out of white kids. That has nothing to do with race. That's just a big coincidence. What about this story? This happened a couple days ago, not too far from this other place in Philly. 6 fellas walking down the street, saw an old white dude beat the hell out of him. Kept walking, saw another old white dude beat the hell out of him. That has nothing to do with race. But a couple of fellas go into a Starbucks and the manager tried to kick him out. That has everything to do with race. What about all the black on Asian violence in Philly? Nothing to do with race? Good Lord, it's a tsunami of violence. It's so bad there that the Asian shopkeepers have to put up this thick plexiglass in their shops, in their restaurants, to protect them from this onslaught of violence and harassment and threats. And yet, a couple months ago in Philly, the city council took steps to ban the plexiglass because they said it's an insult to black people to allow Asian people to defend themselves. Crime is the new black entitlement in Philly. The mayor's down with it. The DA's down with it. The reporters are down with it. The only people who aren't down with it, because they kind of have a hard time believing it, are the white people who live in Philly. They kind of still believe that Philly is a place where you can live, work, and play without worrying about some really, really nasty business there, because they know if they talk about the nasty business they worry about, they're going to violate the #1 rule of living in Philly, which is don't make the black kids angry.